Hello, Bachcho, and welcome. Today, we're doing a rapid-fire revision of one of the most important chapters, body fluids and circulation. We're going to tackle the key concepts in a Q&A format, just like you'll see in your NEET exam. So are you ready? Let's get started.
So first question, you're running or maybe watching Virat Kohli running for a century, and your heart starts pounding, right? Ever wondered why? Well, it's simple. Your muscles are working overtime and they're screaming for more oxygen and more nutrients, so the heart starts pumping faster to meet that demand. This increase is what we call a higher cardiac output.
But wait, before we talk about the heart and its pumping action, we need to understand what it's pumping, right? So our first section is all about blood, the amazing fluid of life that's like the ultimate delivery service for our body. Okay, so if you look here, you'll see blood isn't just one single thing. It's a mix. A whopping 55% of it is a yellowish fluid called plasma, which is mostly just water and proteins. The other 45%, well, that's made of what we call formed elements.
So, what are these formed elements? Well, these are the real workers in your blood. You have three types. First, erythrocytes, or RBCs. These are your oxygen delivery guys. Then you've got leukocytes, or WBCs. Think of them as your body's personal army fighting off infections. And finally, platelets, or thrombocytes, which are like the emergency repair crew for when you get a cut.
Bachcho, star mark this one in your notes. This is a classic NEET question. Red blood cells, they live for about 120 days on average. After that, they get old and are destroyed in the spleen. That's exactly why the spleen is called the graveyard of RBCs. You have to remember this.
All right, here's another crucial question about blood. You should know the answer to this one like the back of your hand. Who can give blood to absolutely anyone, and who can receive blood from anyone? Let's find out.
And here's the answer. Blood group O is the universal donor. Why? Because its RBCs have no A or B antigens on their surface. And blood group AB is the universal recipient because its plasma has no anti-A or anti-B antibodies to cause any trouble. It's all a game of antigens and antibodies.
Okay, we've covered the fluid. Now let's move on to the machine that pumps it all. Let's talk about the superstar of this whole chapter, the heart, our incredible pumping machine. Have you ever wondered about this? Your heart just keeps beating on its own. It doesn't need constant signals from the brain telling it to beat, right? So how does it do that? The magic word here is myogenic. It means the impulse to contract actually starts within the heart muscle itself.
And this magic happens because of a very special kind of tissue called nodal tissue. You can think of it as the heart's own internal power generator. It can create its own electrical impulses, these action potentials, without needing any help from the outside. It's literally auto-excitable.
Now, who's the boss of this nodal tissue? It's the SAN, or the sinoatrial node. This is the part that generates the maximum number of action potentials, around 70 to 75 per minute. And that's our normal heart rate. It sets the rhythm, which is why we call it the pacemaker of our heart. A very, very high yield point for NEET.
Okay, so we've got the heart structure and its pacemaker down. Now let's dive into its function. We're going to talk about the cardiac cycle and see how we can measure all its electrical activity using an ECG.
So, when you listen with the stethoscope, you hear that classic lub-dub sound. Where do those sounds come from? The simple answer is from the heart valves closing. It's not the sound of them opening, it's the sound of them slamming shut.
Let's break that down. The first sound, lub, is caused by the closure of the atrioventricular valves. That's the tricuspid and bicuspid valves. The second sound, dub, which is a bit sharper, comes from the closing of the semilunar valves. It's that simple. Lub is for AV valves, dub is for semilunar valves.
Ah, the famous ECG line you've probably seen in movies. I know, it might look a little complicated, but I promise you, it's actually very logical. Let's break it down, wave by wave.
Look closely. That first little bump, the P wave, that represents the atria contracting, or depolarization. Then that big spike in the middle, the QRS complex, that's the powerful ventricles contracting. And finally, the T wave represents the ventricles relaxing or repolarization. So, P, Q, R, S, T, atria contract, ventricles relax. See? Simple as that. So, the heart is pumping, blood is flowing, but where is it all going? It's not just random traffic inside you. It follows a very organized superhighway system, and that system is what we call double circulation.
Our body has two main circuits. First, there's the pulmonary circulation. This is the short trip. Blood goes from the heart to the lungs to pick up oxygen and comes right back to the heart. The second is the systemic circulation. This is the long haul. Oxygen-rich blood goes from the heart to the entire body and then returns to the heart after dropping off the oxygen.
And Butcho, what's the most important thing to remember here? The pulmonary artery, which is part of the pulmonary circuit, carries deoxygenated blood to the lungs. This is a crucial exception. On the other hand, the aorta, which starts the systemic circuit, carries fully oxygenated blood to the whole body. Don't get this confused.
All right, let's quickly go over a few common circulatory disorders that you can definitely expect questions on in your NEET exam. First up, the baseline. For a healthy adult, the normal blood pressure reading is 120/80 mmHg. The top number, 120, is the systolic pressure. That's when the heart is pumping. The bottom number, 80, is the diastolic pressure, when the heart is resting between beats. Now, what happens if someone's blood pressure is consistently 140/90, or even higher? That condition is known as hypertension, or what we commonly call high blood pressure. These numbers, 140/90, are important for NEET, so make sure you note them down.
Okay, time for a super quick recap. Here are the top 3 takeaways. Number 1, the SAN is the heart's pacemaker, setting a rhythm of about 72 beats per minute. Number 2, the lub sound is from the AV valves closing. Dub is from the semilunar valves closing. And number 3, double circulation is super efficient because it prevents the mixing of oxygenated and deoxygenated blood.
And finally, here's a little food for thought. An athlete's heart is much stronger and pumps more blood with every single beat, meaning they have a higher stroke volume. So, when they are resting, do you think their resting heart rate would be higher or lower than a normal person's? The answer is hidden in the formula for cardiac output. Think about it, keep revising, and all the very best for your exams.